Today I'll be going over 5 tips and tricks for Brand. As always, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Also, let me know down in the comment section below what champion you would like to see me do 5 tips and tricks for next. We're going to get right into it here. 5 tips and tricks, 1 trick for each one of his abilities, starting off with his passive. Now, Brand is a little different than every other support champion in the game, in the sense that most supports, I should say, level 2 is going to be your power spike. And so you're looking to hit level 2 before the enemy team, have that extra ability so that your side of the bot lane has 4 abilities, they have 2. You walk up, you try to engage, you try to get an early lead or an early kill or whatever it may be. If you're playing Leona, that means you have your E and your Q. So you can go in with your E, stun with your Q. If you're playing Aloystar, that now means that you have W to go in, Q to knock up. If you're playing Thresh, you have your Q to hook them, your E to flay them back. Blitzcrank, you have your Q to knock them, or to pull them in, and your E to knock them up. The list goes on and on. However, when it comes to Brand, level 2 is going to be a little underwhelming. If you were to, level up maybe W first and then Q second, and you walk forward, you land the W, you land the Q, you get the stun, it might be a pretty good trade, but it's a bit of a slow engage. It's also 2 skill shots, so you have to be able to reliably land both of them. If you're walking forward and you miss one or the other, then the trade might not be all that well to begin with. So level 2 is not honestly all that impressive for Brand. However, level 3 is going to be a little bit of a different story, and that's going to be your bread and butter power spike. That's when you actually want to look to start to play really aggressive as Brand, and that is all because of his passive. Now, if you guys are familiar with Brand's passive, it's only able to proc if you hit them with 3 abilities. So this isn't even something that you're capable of proccing until level 3. And if you are able to look for that trade, land all 3 of your abilities, proc your passive, it's going to be a really, really good trade in your favor. So that's my piece of advice when it comes to Brand's passive. This is something that you are looking to utilize in the early game, revolving more around the level 3 power spike more so than the level 2 power spike, because if you do go in at level 3, you have all 3 abilities, you're also able to proc that passive, you're going to get a lot accomplished. So that's my advice for that. Moving on to Brand's Q. So Brand's Q is the only ability in his kit that has any kind of CC. Obviously, you're probably building into Rylai's, which provides a little bit of a slow. But other than that, it's pretty much just your Q. So your Q is really, really important to land when it comes to playing Brand, because you're a support. So at the end of the day, you need to be able to protect your ADC a little bit and provide as much utility as possible. Your Q is kind of the only thing that you have going for you. So if a fight breaks out, if it's a 2v2 fight, or if you're getting ganked, whatever it may be, if you're missing your Q and you're not getting that stun off, things are going to go pretty poorly for you. So my main piece of advice here when it comes to Brand's Q is really be patient with it. This isn't something that you just want to throw out randomly because of how important it is. If you throw out your Q and you miss while you're getting ganked or a fight's breaking out, again, you have no other utility to keep yourself alive or keep your ADC alive, so you're kind of useless. Again, Brand is already kind of a really aggressive support, something that isn't going to provide a lot for his team to begin with, other than just a lot of damage output. But you do have your Q, so you got to be really, really patient with it, and make sure you're using it at the right time, not just throwing it out there just for the sake of throwing it out there. I will also say, though, you can be a little bit more aggressive with it. So again, you want to hold on to this ability and be patient when people are engaging on you. But if you want to engage on them, you could definitely catch people off guard. Obviously, like a standard Brand combo is going to be something like E, Q, W. If you see, or if the other team sees you doing this combo, they'll probably be able to react to it. But you can also catch people a little bit off guard if you happen to land, a max range W, you're waiting patiently, and then you can step out to the side of a mini wave and then throw your Q out, something like that. Or maybe you land the W and you can Q flash forward, something like that. There are going to be options and possibilities for you to flash forward and land your Q. So that's another, I guess, piece of advice when it comes to his Q, is you can use it to play aggressive and catch people off guard. And while doing so, you don't always have to go for a standard combo. Because again, if people see you use your E and you're this far away from them, they're going to expect that Q is going to be following, and they'll be able to sidestep it or flash away, or whatever it may be. So instead of doing your standard combo at all times, if you can manage to land some kind of ability from afar, just keep an eye on that Q. You could probably catch them off guard and play a little bit more aggressive and look to maybe step to the side and hit them with that Q. So that's my advice for his Q. Moving on to Brand's W. Now, Brand's W is something that a lot of people will be using for poking in the early game. Let me go ahead and set up some target dummies here, and let's just pretend that these are ranged minions. And you know what? Can I set up one more? I can. Cool. So let's just say that these 3 here are ranged minions. This one here is the ADC. A lot of people, what they'll be doing when they're trying to poke in the lane phase with their W is targeting their W something like this, which is nice if you're able to hit the ADC, but this isn't actually going to be the most efficient way to use your W. Instead, what you want to be doing is trying to land your W on both the ADC or support, whoever it is that you're poking, but also the minions that they're standing next to. So a perfect W in this situation would be something like this. Now, the reason that that is a good W is because that is going to set us up for additional damage with our E. Because, of course, if you're using your W here, in order to land your E on this ADC all the way back here, look how far up you have to walk in order to proc it, right? However, if we land our W here, not only do we get the damage off on the ADC, but now instead of having to walk all the way to that ADC back there, we can just use our E on the minions to spread that damage. So you're going to be getting more damage off, not only on the ADC, but also on the minions. It's going to be helping you push the wave. It also sets you up for additional damage with your E. And one final thing it does is it makes it so that you've already landed 2 of your abilities, right? So now you can threat to walk forward. They're going to have to back up because if you land that Q, it's going to stun them. You have an all-in angle. You have your passive that's going to be procced, so on and so forth. So that's my advice when it comes to his W. Don't just look to poke the ADC, also look to angle it so you can hit both the ADC and the caster minions, set up for E, potentially set up for an all-in angle with the Q, so on and so forth. Moving on is going to be Brand's E. So again, going back to the combo I was referring to earlier, the pretty much standard combo when it comes to playing Brand. E, Q, W, really simple stuff. Again, people will probably be expecting this. So one kind of cool trick that you could do with Brand's E, if you use it at max range and you use your Q right after, what's going to happen is, or excuse me, if you use your Q first and then use your E while your Q is in mid-range, the stun will actually go off. So I kind of explained that poorly. Let me just go ahead and show you guys. So again, standard combo is E first and then the Q. The reason that you do this is because you need to set the target ablaze before the Q lands in order to get that stun. However, you can actually do it in the opposite order and kind of catch them off guard. So instead of them seeing the E and then the Q and being prepared for this stun, being prepared to sidestep it, if they see you lead with the Q, they might not be on the edge of their seat. They might not be as prepared for a stun. And the reason that you're able to still land a stun by using Q first and then your E is because your E can go off and set the target ablaze while your Q is midair and still proc the stun. Again, not explaining it the best here, but let me go ahead and just show you guys. So Q first, the E is going to go off while the Q is in midair, and you can see by the little purple swirly thing above the target dummy's head that he is in fact going to be stunned. So this is something that you could pull off if you're in range. Obviously the Q range is a little bit larger than the E range, so it's not something you can do from max range as with your Q, but if you are in range of here, Q first and then E is going to set up that stun. Now if you want to get really fancy with it, you can also Q flash E, and that's going to catch them even more off guard. Not many people will be expecting to get stunned in that situation because they're so used to seeing Brand lead off with their E or some other ability before throwing out that Q. So they're not going to expect the stun when they see your Q being the first ability thrown out. You can catch people off guard in that sense. The last ability that we'll be going over here is going to be Brand's ultimate. And there's a couple things that I want to go over when it comes to Brand's ulti. The first of which is just the fact that it actually has a pretty long range. So let's go ahead and look here at a standard combo. E, Q, W is one way to engage as Brand, but look how close we have to get in order to use our E here, right? Let me just go ahead and put this target dummy here as kind of a baseline to show how close I had to get. Now, let's do kind of the same combo, but instead of using our E first, we'll lead with our ulti. R, Q, we actually started about right here, right? So my advice here is if you're looking for an all-in and you're a little too far away from the enemy, instead of going for that combo, the standard combo, E first into Q into W, you have that little bit of extra range, your ulti compared to your E. As you can see here, you know, just kind of showing the different ranges here. You can lead off with your ulti. And I know it feels a bit weird to use your ulti first because if you mess up the engage, you mess up the engage and you no longer have your ultimate ability. But since it does have that additional range, it can be really helpful for catching them off guard. Again, most people are going to be looking for your E to come out first from Brand, so they're ready for that stun. You can lead with your ulti and then your Q. Let me go ahead and just show it one more time. Enemy dummy right there. Standard combo. We have to stand all the way up here. If we start with our ulti, though, we're a little bit further away, right? So we can still land that stun. We can still look for that all-in, and it's just from a further range. So that is one thing I wanted to go over with when it comes to Brand's ulti. The other thing I wanted to go over, and this might seem a little self-explanatory, but it is important to go into. Just to let you guys know, Brand has one of the highest death totals per game out of any champion in the game. And that is just because he's a squishy AP champion that has no mobility, and has really low range compared to most mages in the game. So he does die a lot, but he does a lot of damage as well. So my other piece of advice when it comes to playing Brand is mainly just try to get all of your abilities off before you die once. I always like to say when you're playing Brand, if you're able to get more than one rotation off in a fight, you should be able to win, right? So if a fight breaks out, team fight breaks out, we're throwing out all of our abilities, and then our abilities come back up, we're able to get them off again. If we're able to get 2 full rotations off in a team fight, you're probably going to win. But that's not super likely because, again, Brand does die quite a bit. So my advice here, try to get at least 1 full rotation off before you die. And at the bare minimum, if you happen to be in a bad situation, if you happen to get caught out, the least you can do is try to get your ulti off before a fight breaks out. That's going to bounce off of a bunch of people. It's going to proc a passive. That'll start a chain reaction with Rylai's and Leandries and stuff like that you're building that's going to be burning and slowing them. Just getting your ulti off might be enough to help your team win a fight even after you die. So that's my other piece of advice when it comes to Brand. Try to get your rotation off or your full rotation off before you die, but at the bare minimum, try to get your ulti off. So that is going to wrap up the end of this video. 5 tips and tricks for Brand. Again, if you guys went on to enjoy this video or found it helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. And let me know down in the comment section below what champion you would like to see me cover next. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end of this one. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.